I used to deflect the pain I felt by trying to make myself feel better by making other people feel better. Therefore, when they felt better, I felt better. And that's what I did most of my life until much later, where I realized that the wound that I need to heal is in me, and I shouldn't be deflecting that outwardly, or depending on other people's happiness to make me happy, because internally I was still an open wound.
Mm.
And so my father never found that happiness in this home and moved on to the other home and did that. And so what I do with my clients is say, stop looking out there. It's not in the next job, it's not in the next relationship, it's not in your next activity. It's in the here, in the now, going back into your pain, going back into your past, realizing that what you've been doing is running away from the face in the mirror. You needed to look in the mirror and see that you are all those things already, that you don't believe that you are. And as much as you get told, hey, you're really good, like they said to me, wow, you set up such a large bookstore or the largest internet cafe, or you're turning pro tennis player, I'd be like, well, that's nothing. Like, it doesn't do anything for me, because I'm the only one that can tell me I'm good enough. But I was always looking for it out there, and nobody can make you feel whole or complete.
And what will you do?
I will show them that the way that they're seeing the world is the problem, not the world. Number one. Number two is that it's time to go within and open those deep crevices that you've hidden far away from the world, as I had to, and ask those difficult questions that you judge and impose on the world about themselves, and ask those questions to yourself. That's what I will do. And then I will I will let you see that everything that you claim to have wanted in your life because it would fulfill you was a fantasy and a deflection from the real thing that you actually want. What we actually want is to be comfortable in our own skins. We want to be at ease with this moment as it is. And we want to be in a childlike state. In other words, we want to be present and engaged without all the baggage coming along. So I want to help you, as I did, ditch a lot of baggage. I didn't know I had baggage until someone with a skilled blade or key, and they call me the key maker. Many people call me the key maker. This term is just keeps on coming up over and over again. We're 3 weeks in here. I can tell you what, you're not interested in happiness. You're doing this because your wife sent you here. So I'm going to save you and your wife a lot of money. And go find someone else to sit and cuddle you and tell you that you're not wrong and they're wrong. I can't do that for you.
Mm.
So I'm very selective. So my process is, I don't just put an advert in the newspaper and say life coach for sale. Any problem you got, give me a call. I don't do that. It's
Hmm.
just not me. I'm not 21 years old looking for a job desperately.
So, um, let me just start with where did you grow up?
I grew up in Pretoria, South Africa, which was the previous capital. Um, yeah. So I spent my first 12 years of my life there, and then we moved to Portugal, to Lisbon. My father moved us all due to the uncertainty in the country, and then I lived two and a half years in Portugal at a private Catholic school. Um, and then after that, we moved to Sydney, Australia, and so I would have been around 14 or 15. Then I did finished my schooling there, went to college. They actually no went to school there. Then at the age of 17, I left school to go to California to play tennis to turn pro, because I started playing tennis quite late. And so I spent about 6 months or 9 months in Balboa Beach, California, and that's where I was training. Didn't manage to turn pro in time. Didn't manage to find sponsors fast enough. And then at the age of 19, I went back to college and studied business, marketing, and computer related things. which takes me to my early 20s. At 21, I moved back to South Africa. Spent a few years working in IT. Um, yeah, that's early adulthood. And then I would have been 23, 24. Moved back to Australia. Um, got more work there, and yeah, then I moved back to South Africa. Opened up a computer training center, teaching people how to uh, preparing them for the workforce. Um, then I sold that. I moved to Albania to help with the Kosovo refugee crisis, and to teach them and help them out. That was 97. But anyway, trying to figure out the dates and the ages is impossible. Then moved back to Australia, worked there for a few years. Oh, and then I opened up a bookstore, very large bookstore. And now I was retired then. I remember they wrote an article about me, and I was 29, and they said, Rashad Ahmed retired. And they put it in quotes because, this guy's nuts retiring at 29. Yeah, but I wasn't financially well off. I just said I'm done with the rat race. Yeah, and then I went a few more years into corporate. So yeah, it's just probably corporate was like about 10 years of corporate altogether. Set up a few businesses there. So I've had quite a few businesses that I owned and managed and ran. Yeah, that's
Well, okay, great. Just can you just sort of like bullet point off the different businesses just so I get a sense of what kind of things
yeah.
you did?
Well, first of all, when I was 16, I had a tennis racket stringing business. I started that up, and I used to string rackets for people to pay. Right, so that was in Sydney. Then I had Web City, which was web design, creative advertising, and that kind of stuff. Then I had a training center, a computer training center, teaching people about IT. The bookstore, I had a bookstore, very large one actually. It was massive. Then I had a internet cafe in Cape Town. They don't exist anymore. So it was the largest internet cafe in Africa. It was very large at that time. They had 40 computers. It was really big. Then I went into car. You've frozen. Then I went into executive cars. I was buying and selling cars. Then for a few years I went into government funding. So I was a business mentor and a government funding specialist. So people would come to me with their business ideas, and I would advise them and mentor them and get them funding. So it was like an angel investor type of thing,
Mm-hmm.
which then brings me up to coaching. Yeah. There was another business involved in there as well. It was,
Okay.
I think
That,
that's rough.
yeah, I think that's kind of all I needed. I'm curious. So that's a lot of that's quite a Lord of the Rings journey you've been on in your life in terms of, you know, the peaks and the valleys and the oceans and the forests and the mountains and the deserts and just, like moving through so many interesting different phases of your life. I'm curious, starting from when you were living in Pretoria as a kid, was there something that had you feel different and set apart?
To feel different and set apart.
Yeah. Yeah,
Mm,
was there something that you noticed about yourself that you were like, huh, this is different than
oh yeah,
other people? Well,
yeah,
there was. Yeah. What was that?
yeah. Good question. I was always a deep thinker.
Hmm.
I philosophizing, basically being quite a philosopher at a very young age about like what's the meaning of life. I was always interested in astronomy, aliens and galaxies and what else is out there. supernatural abilities of people. It was always something that I found amazing, and always thought I had some kind of supernatural ability as a child. I used to do crazy things. They used to call me Murdoch. If you ever watched the A Team, that's a
Yeah,
long time ago,
sure, I remember that.
right?
I
Right? You
remember
remember Murdoch?
they called you Murdoch.
They called me Burndog because I used to do the worst crazy shit out there. I would like set up a ramp, and then I had my BMX bike, and I would set up a ramp and then fly off it, thinking I'd fly in the air, at the age of like 8 or 10 or 11, and then land in a pile of crap. I burnt my father's gate down just playing with fire, and then I had a major accident as well when I was 8 or 9. Almost died. I got hit by a pickup, as you guys call it, at like 120 k's an hour, which is in miles about 80 miles an hour.
Oh
And
shit!
they said you flew like a bird because I went straight up like that, like really really high up. The impact just, you know, um, and at the time I was looking at a church. I remember telling my friend who was with me, I said, "Wow, look at the church," and this pickup didn't see me, hit me, and then I landed on my elbow, and my neck was like they said your neck was 1 centimeter away from the curb. Had it hit there, it would have been game over, right?
Whoa!
So
Yeah.
yeah, and I survived that with I didn't have to go to hospital or stay in hospital after that. So
Mm.
yeah, always interested in the super, yeah, and also felt life very deeply, feeling people's pain, um, feeling uh, homeless, sick people, poor people, anyone abused, anybody taken advantage of. It used to keep me up at night. I used to be tormented by suffering of others. Always has been that my something that I just couldn't stand. I couldn't stand the sight of anyone getting hurt, and yeah. So that's what I suppose set me apart. But I did witness a lot of violence. In South Africa is a very violent place, so I witnessed murders. Some really
Mm.
horrific stuff like people being burnt alive and all
Oh my
that kind of
gosh!
stuff. So yeah,
Wow.
that was before 12. So yeah, so it was I didn't have much of a faith in the world as such. So
Mm. Wow.
yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Was there? You may have already answered this question, but what was something that you did? Like, let's think around the age of like 6-ish, give or take a few years. What was something that you did back at that time that was so uniquely you, that was so your particular unique essence coming through completely unfiltered, such that you or your family or your childhood friends would look back on it and say, wow, that was so Rashad to do?
uh, I'm laughing because I can't think of anything extraordinary except my mom telling me that you took a knife and you sat on the kitchen floor and you thought you could cut your nails with a kitchen knife, and you had blood all over your your feet, and you said like it was like I believed I could do something, like I always did like crazy shit. So I mean, yeah, that's I don't know if that set me apart in any way, but yeah, I don't know if it was uniquely
Well,
me
not,
either. I am a bit nuts. I do tend to do crazy things.
yeah, well, I'm curious about that. I mean, so were you aware of nail clippers at that time, or you just wanted to do it your way?
Uh, yeah, I wanted to do it my way. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It
Right.
wasn't the
So
practical
you were
thing. My mom
aware
used
of
to
nail
cut our nails
clippers.
anyway.
Right, okay. And
Mm.
and so you were aware that you could have done it with nail clippers, but instead you chose to use a knife on the kitchen floor to cut your own fingernails because you wanted to do it your way. And did that show up in other places in your life where
Yeah,
it's like, yeah, I see how you're doing it, but I want to try it this way?
yeah. You could say that.
Yeah. That's really interesting. What do you think the what do you think was important to you about finding out for yourself if you could do it
Um,
a different way?
yeah, I thought I could do the impossible always, and yeah, the knife to me was yeah, it was really cool, and yeah, so it was doing something unconventional, and I knew I could get it right.
Hmm.
Obviously, I didn't because I had blood on my feet, so I don't remember seeing the blood on my feet.
Right.
That's the only memory. I'm sure there was a
And
lot more that happened, but
sure, of course, but it's a very interesting window into the essence of you. And then the second part
yeah,
of that question
yeah,
is, you
yeah,
can look
it
at
is.
here's who you were then, here's who you are today, and you can look at who you were
Mm.
then and who you are now, and you can say, well, my tastes have changed, my style has changed, my perspectives on the world have changed, my how I relate to things has changed, but the essence of who I was then is still the essence of who I am now. How does this essence show
Spot
up in the
on.
world in the form you are in today?
Um, because I keep on, I get bored very quickly.
Hmm.
When I've achieved something and I feel I've succeeded at it, I move on very quickly. And it's sometimes a bad thing because I don't let things play out to their full. So I don't reap the rewards of what I've done. I just do it, and then I'm not getting the kick out of it, so I move on. But it's a question I was asking myself this week, so it's really appropriate timing. Me doing the coaching thing at this point in my life, like I think we had that. No, no, I don't know if we had that conversation, but it's like starting off something so that takes a long time to develop your name, develop a reputation and all the rest of it. I could have stuck to any one of those things that I did, any of those businesses, and would have been quite well established then. But
Right.
that's just not my nature. So that's only my professional life I've told you about. But I told you about the Sahara, and I I was going to give it all up after the bookstore and move to the Sahara and live there and do that. And then Albania was another total. The guys came to me and said, "Look, these people need your help. The refugees. Are you prepared to help them?" I said, "I've got a business." I said, "Why don't you close it up?" I said, "Great idea." I closed it up and shipped everything over. And all these students were saying to me, like, they haven't experienced a teacher like that. Please stay, and they really need me. And I'm like, listen, those people need me more, so I got to go. So yeah, I'm extremely daring, and even when I travel, I go to pretty daring places, and yeah, I'm always pushing that envelope and daring myself, and sometimes I scare the shit out of myself as well. Like now, at the moment, I do at this particular point or juncture with some other things that are going on in my life. Yeah, it does. It scares me, but I can't have it any other way. It seems so. That's the common thread, you could say.
Yeah. Yeah. Give me just a moment with that. Okay. Thank you. Yeah, it's forming a really interesting picture. Um, so it's been said that our gift is where our wound is.
Hmm.
For you looking at your own life, if your gift is where your wound is, what would you say your wound is, and what is the gift that comes from that?
That's deep. That's a deep question. The
Deep
first thing
question
that
for a deep
came to me,
guy.
the first thing that came to me is um, losing people that I love. Um, and my gift is overcoming adversity because I have encountered quite a lot of it. I don't compare tragedies to other people, and I don't even talk about them. But yeah, just the witnessing of. recovering from seeing and experiencing these things which I felt very deeply that tormented me, and I managed to overcome that and return back to normality as a human being and continue living without shutting my heart out, because that's part of when you experience great pain, you can shut down and turn away from the world, which I did at some point later on in my life. But then getting myself back up again. So I feel the whole, or the, what did you call it? The pain. The pain has been feeling,
The,
yeah,
the
the
wound.
wound. The wound is feeling a loss, loss or grief, or um, yeah, loss and grief is good. And then getting myself out of that hole. And then, so my gift until today is the ability to inspire others. Um, and yeah, but that's really interesting, because I know it's not related, but I just want to add it on. Maybe it is related, that I used to deflect the pain I felt by trying to make myself feel better by making other people feel better. Therefore, when they felt better, I felt better. And that's what I did most of my life until much later, where I realized that the wound that I need to heal is in me, and I shouldn't be deflecting that outwardly, or depending on other people's happiness to make me happy, because internally I was still an open wound.
Hmm.
That came out nicely. Yeah, in that way, you could say. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Give me a moment with that. So, if we're looking at it from the perspective of the the kid who wanted to do things his way to see if he could do it the way that he thought he could do it, and then we take that same ability and apply it to, now here's a kid who is hurt and wants to feel better, but instead of trying to feel better the way everyone else is trying to feel better, he kept trying different ways to feel better. And in doing so, figured out a lot of things for himself and continues to get a lot of joy and healing from helping other people to feel better. I'm just sort of like exploring that. What is the connection between your work in helping people evolve and how you've had this really fascinating type of tenacity
Yeah.
in your own journey, just feeling for the connection between those two things.
Yeah. Um,
Do,
you
do you do
spot
you just have some
on the
quick thoughts and reflections on that?
yeah, just saying, it's a bit of a delay there. So, but yeah, you are spot on in that I I tried to find happiness in things that I did, hoping that it would make me feel better or make me feel happier. And it was my father too. We moved 45 different houses, and across countries as well. We even moved to Irvine, California at one stage, right? And stayed there for a while. So, and in my life, I moved 45 houses in total. So that makes 90 houses that I've moved in my life. And yeah, that's quite something. So it was always looking for a home out there, always looking. I'll tell you what the thing is. It's, yeah, it's really deep, huh? It's me trying to show myself that I'm good enough, strong enough, brave enough, because I didn't believe that in myself. So I would do stuff that would push me to the point of fear, so that I could prove to myself, hey, look, you did that. Therefore, you are good enough, you are strong enough, and you are brave enough, or other things as well. because I never felt I was that. And so my father never found that happiness in this home and moved on to the other home and did that. And so what I do with my clients is say, stop looking out there. It's not in the next job, it's not in the next relationship, it's not in your next activity. It's in the here and the now, going back into your pain, going back into your past, realizing that what you've been doing is running away from the face in the mirror. You needed to look in the mirror and see that you are all those things already, that you don't believe that you are. And as much as you get told, hey, you're really good, like they said to me, wow, you set up such a large bookstore or the largest internet cafe, or you're turning pro tennis player, I'd be like, well, that's nothing. Like, it doesn't do anything for me, because I'm the only one that can tell me I'm good enough. But I was always looking for it out there, and nobody can make you feel whole or complete. It's, in fact, you almost discard what that person says to go and get someone else to tell you no, you're not. And that's the fuel that most people use. Is once you know you're good enough, you feel, well, what's the point then? I've already done everything, right?
Yeah, there's a really interesting that makes complete sense. I really get it. And it's interesting because I think you can really speak with authority on this, because this isn't something that you learned in a book or got a certification. Like, you have been fully certified by life
Mhm.
in these things because you have gone through them yourself, and you now know it in your bones, and now you can speak to it. And you had to go through all of these variations to find out all the things that didn't work until you could finally see, okay, so this is what works. And I know it. Yeah. Yeah. Beautiful.
And I know how
When
difficult it was to do that.
Yeah.
I mean, like, when we finally get to the point where I realize, hey, that guy in the mirror, you need to work on him. To change that took me, uh, it took everything out of me, everything out of
Hmm.
me. That was the most. That was the moment before I became a life coach. That's when my whole soul turned inside out. When I fought and fought to break or to integrate that.
Totally. Totally. The you usually that's exactly what happens before the breakthrough, because it's the last place we ever want to go. And yet, once
Yeah,
we've done enough things, it's like, oh shit, there is nowhere else to go. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
So when
yeah.
you look back at the old version of yourself, um, the one that was trying to do all of these things to get the reflection from the world back to yourself that you were okay, and yet never being satisfied. When you look back on that old version of yourself, what do you see?
Um, uh, I see someone who lacked self-esteem, someone who hated themselves, someone who resented everything and everyone, someone full of rage and anger, extreme frustration, very low beliefs in his abilities, being very afraid of life and everything and everyone, a great fear of wanting to be loved or to love, for the fear of losing someone I love. So I never opened up to people, and that would be something. Always felt very unsettled in my being. It's not comfortable in my skin at all.
It's impressive how quickly you just rattled off that that list. And and I would assume that, well, let me put it in the form of a question. Um, being able to look back and see all of that in yourself, how is it for you now working with a spectrum of people, having been able to see that so clearly for yourself?
Yeah, it's the question, it's the answer. It's exactly what you're saying. It gives me a very clear indication. And so, because I've worn so many skins and created so many identities and assumed so many personalities and covered up so many insecurities so well, not so well, but I thought I did really well. I get to see most diverse personality types in me, um, and very tormented by myself, by my opinions, by my thinking. My thinking tormented me most of my life.
Mm-hmm.
Mm. So yeah, it is that being able to see even in a child, right? I mean, I've got clients that are, I never thought I could, but I had a 13-year-old teenage girl as a client, and I thought there's nothing I can offer her whatsoever because there's nothing I can relate to. But somehow we connected, like in an extraordinary level, which then comes back to accepting myself as the soul that I am, as the complete human being as I am, and whatever that may encompass, so that I can now go out to a 13-year-old girl or a 73-year-old man, and I can totally relate because I've assimilated every part of me and accepted every part of me. So I'm not. They no longer see me because I don't have an identity, because I realize that all of those identities, personalities, anxieties, or belief systems in me, I question every one of them, integrate every one of them. So when I see that person, I just see them, and they say, "You're so easy to get along with." You have people say, "You're so familiar. It's like I've known you all my life." And that's when I say that to my coaches as well. When someone says that they know you already, you're not there. Because if you, in other words, that it's not your ego putting a front up saying, "Tell me your problems. This is what you are and what you're not." You're not there, so that person can flourish and flower, and that's what took me my whole life to do. Because everything else I ever did was a projection of what I wanted people to know, what I am and who I am. Because I wasn't happy with that, so I needed to make sure they didn't see the real me. Because the real me, nobody wants to see, as far as I'm concerned.
Mm. I wrote down what you said. You said a lot of things, but two of the things that particularly stood out when you said accepting myself as the soul that I am, the complete human being. And so when you, being that you've accepted yourself as the soul that you are and the complete human being that you are, do you find that allows you to accept the soul that others are and the complete human being that others are as well?
Precisely, precisely.
Right. And
Otherwise, I
that's
would have
that's
my
one of,
judgment hat on,
yeah, right.
and based on my beliefs. Yeah, okay,
Yeah,
yeah. So that's what I would do. I would judge them and say, well, now I would say, well, whatever they are, let them be, because whatever I am, all those things I hated about myself, that I wasn't enough of this or wasn't enough of that or whatever, I've accepted all of this. So now, if I've accepted it, then I have to accept it in them as well.
of course. Of course. And that's one of your superpowers.
Yep, yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So when it comes to the world, as it relates to the conversation that we're having, mm, I want to clarify that a little bit more. When it comes to the dysfunction of the world, the the wars that are happening, the disagreements that are happening, the dysfunctional relationships that are happening, the self-loathing for people that is happening, that is, you know, coloring and flavoring their choices and actions and hurting other people, and just all of the cacophony of what's happening in the world today. when it comes down to the essence of it, what do you basically see as the problem?
Um, Conditioning.
Mm-hmm.
The problem I see is conditioning. We have all been programmed or inherited a program that at some stage was flawed and became usurped by people who wanted it for one agenda or the other. And so, based on that conditioning, we then hold opinions about ourselves and others. And yeah, we don't we lose touch with our essential nature, which is, in other words, of saying what all spiritual teachings are saying is that you've forgotten what you are, where you came from, and where you're going is at essential level. And if we take the going and comings, then we take Joseph Campbell's view. Joseph Campbell's reflections upon this is that we come from the earth, we are the earth. So there is no separateness. Me and you both come from the same earth. There is no what I want and what you want. It's what we all are. And so yeah, I think that's the problem. Yeah.
Yeah. That was great because, one thing that I reflect on when I hear that is, tell me if you feel that this is, um, if this resonates, but really going back to that little kid trying to cut his fingernails on the kitchen floor with that knife.
It was my toenails, by the way.
Toenails.
Yeah.
Um, in what way do you think that your spirit, your soul was saying, I will not be programmed. I will figure this out on my own. I will find truth.
Yeah, absolutely. Wow, I
Right.
like that. Yeah, absolutely. I resonate with
Right.
that. Yeah. And
Yeah.
the question that I reflected upon lately, and I said this is what everybody wants to know. The question that I was asking all my life without knowing that was the question is me investigating astronomy, the planets, the galaxies, aliens, supernatural powers. The question that I wanted to answer is that surely there's more to life than this.
Mm-hmm.
That was the thing, is this it? Like this body, these jobs, these roles, mom and dad, this suffering, this thing. Surely there must be something more, because something in me is saying this can't be it. It just can't be it. It's just this is not it. And then as an adult, I've been asking this question, the true nature of reality, and it still puzzles me because it's not something that is perceived in the mind. As I figured out after destroying my brain trying to figure it out, I realized it's not in there. Right? It's part of the.
Yeah.
This is part of the hardware that came with the uh, the jumpsuit, with the space suit that we've been given. I don't know what the right
Right.
word is, but yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I know Buckminster Fuller had said you can't, or was it Einstein? So one of them said,
It's been attributed to both of them. Yeah,
"Oh yeah." So you know the one I'm talking about.
yeah,
But for the sake of the conversation,
yeah.
you can't solve a problem from the same level of thinking that caused the problem.
Mm.
But I've never thought about it from, can you solve a problem with the same hardware that was used to create the problem?
Yeah, yeah.
And the truth is, maybe, because I think who and what we are, this spacesuit, like it's an evolving spacesuit, like my my hardware is far more evolved from 10 years ago or 20 or 30 years ago. So the hardware has the ability to evolve. um
but in
Anyway, let's.
which way? But in which way? So a couple of things. There is strong evidence that before the neocortex and our ability to think, that we felt the world and we knew existence far superior to the way we do now. Because now
Mm,
with the neocortex and the that's when suffering was born. That's when
mm,
thoughts and emotions and thinking was born. But if you think about a primate without the neocortex and the ability to think, they're
yeah,
feeling the world, they're sensing the world, they're perceiving the world. Having
right.
said that, on the one hand, I'm going to agree with you on another aspect, is that it's not that we're evolving. The mechanism is evolving. We are becoming more thinkers. But this is where Rumi said, he said, when you were created, it's installed in you as well for you to escape. And that is through the soul. So it's not, it's what comes with, you could call it the soul or whatever name you want to give that, that if you access that within you, it's primordial, it's primal, and it's always there. No matter how the jumpsuit evolves, even if we grow another finger, which I'm quite certain of in the next 100 years, we will have an extra finger that will be specifically designed for smartphones. That's if smartphones don't die out. You will find in the next, I would say, the next generation, people born with either an extra finger or a very narrow finger, perfectly suited for the tap. That's what evolution will do. But we don't see
Wow.
this because and people would say, well, it hasn't happened in the past. There are some freaky things you don't see, mutations that happen that are not publicly available, and that's part of the great mystery of evolution. That's going off topic, obviously.
um, yeah, give me a moment.
I threw you right off there.
I mean, it was a good one. I so want to go in that direction, but um, so of all the things you could be doing, of all the places you could be putting your focus and attention in the world right now, what has you choosing this as the focus of your attention, the work that you're doing now?
I've been evaluating this week this question, and yeah, it's not very easy to answer at this particular point. Um, Actually, it did get answered for me this morning. My whole world was shaken apart by my best friend passing away. So
Uh, so
I,
sorry.
yeah, yeah. So I said, what the hell am I doing? It's that question when you get shooken up like that. You're like, what the hell am I doing? And what am I doing? I mean, the thing
Mm,
is, I have such a wide range of skills and abilities, and that I know from people telling me that, not me assuming that. Like corporate, I've done the corporate to every extent. I know corporate politics. I know corporate how the corporate brain functions, things operates. I know the corporation like back to front because I've spent 10 years in there, and I've worked so much with that in leadership and training and all the rest of it. Then I went into entrepreneurship and business and done pretty much all of that. Even in the sports field, I've done so much stuff, but in my early days. And now there's the spiritual aspect that I spent a lot of time nurturing, and it's what my soul's calling at this particular point. But at some point, you got to bridge the gap between paying the bills and talking about and doing what you love. So one of my coaches called me this morning, and she was sharing these things that intrigue me about the spirit and about what connects each other and frequencies and these things that seem so random, but then you start seeing these majestic patterns and timings and divine and that kind of stuff. I could talk about all day, every day, right? And yeah, so why am I here? Just to rewind, to answer the question more simply and concisely, because that's what you requested, rightfully so, is that when I went on my own journey, I met a guide, coach, who basically pointed out things to me that I could not see for the life of me, and it upset me, it angered me, and I hated him for it, and I thought he was an idiot. And then on the deeper reflection, I recognized some truths in what he was saying, and then I began my journey with him, and then a journey on my own. And that's when I mentioned about integrating my shadow, not shadow, but doing all the work within myself, accepting myself, and then looking in the mirror and actually being able to say with a straight face, "I love you," which was probably the most difficult thing I've ever done. Out of all of that, I love you. I accept you. You're perfect as you are. These were the most painful things for me to do. I didn't realize they were painful because I thought I was the main man, projecting out the main man. So I arrived at the state, and I was in the rainforest in Thailand, and I, uh, I at that point, I didn't think about becoming a life coach. My coach said to me, you'd be amazing as a life coach. And I said, no, I don't think I'll be good at this as a life coach at all, because I can't sit here and listen to old people telling me all their problems, just some random kind of stuff in my mind, like all people that have problems are old people or something like that. This is after me being awakened, by the way. So, so I was there, and I didn't want to go back into funding and finance because it was eating my soul up. I was dealing with uh, some of the worst people out there who were not bad. They were all just trying to pay a bill, but the bankers and government people and it was all money. Everything revolved around money, and as long as you got the money, it wasn't about as much as we projected out there. It was about us being honorable and all that kind of stuff that banks and financial institutions like to say. We're here for your legacy and we care about your family and all the rest of it. And I'm not saying not all of them are like that. So yeah, and then it just happened by incredible coincidences and perfect timings that said, uh, and then I found this book called Ikigai, and I said, well, let me read this, the Japanese art of finding what you love. And they said, what are you naturally good at? And I said, speaking. I speak really well, and I enjoy speaking. And then it hit me what my mom said to me back when I was a young boy, and she said, "Shad, you were meant to speak on public platforms. You were made to inspire people." I remember her saying that to me because there was a lot of depression, a lot of sadness in our house, a lot of worry, a lot of grief. I just came from visiting the graves of my mom and dad today, sitting with them, and I said, "Yeah, it's like the patterns repeat themselves. Like we fall into great despair, and even though the situation is not at the end stage, you feel like it's all over, and your mind convinces you to such an extent that it's game over, which is, very close towards the end of their deaths." Yeah, that was it. That was it. I said, I don't want to live like that. Neither do I want to die like that. The way they lived, with fear, worry, anxiety, and a lot of bitterness and sadness. Of course, that was my projection. If they were alive today, they may have said, "Listen, you were looking at the wrong thing. We were actually lovely, wonderful people enjoying our lives." But I see that with my sister as well, and it's this grief and sadness and this victim, the pity party for who we are. Is why hasn't life dealt us a good card, and these other people are getting it? And I said, I want it different. I want to break this cycle. I don't want to live like that. Neither do I want to go out like that in life. And whether I've succeeded or failed at that, I don't know. I can't sit on top of the pile of thing and look at myself and go, well, you've done it and they haven't. No way am I in any way claiming such a thing. But I said, surely there's more to life than this. Surely there's another way to exist. And so that's what got me started into uh, life coaching, a word that I still don't like. You know, I don't like the word coach. Neither do I like the word life, because no way can I pretend to know about life, because nobody knows about life. Life, you figure it out, and it's the way you see it and establish it. So, coach. I mean, coach. It's a terrible name, but and it was Tony Robbins that came up with it in the '70s or I don't know, early '80s, and then it stuck. So people say, "What do you do, a life coach?" Again, these are just terms, but it's not what I am. Neither is it what I do. However, we gotta use what people want to hear. Long
Let's
answer.
pause
Sorry.
there. That was great. That was all right. I was tracking it. Like,
Ah,
here's what I hear is your mission is that people, whether people realize it or not, they're not here to live or die with grief or sadness or being a victim. Like, they want it different. They want to break the cycle. And they know that surely there's more to life. There's another way to exist. For those
Mm.
people who are on that that quest, that seeking that, most people think dot dot dot,
Okay.
like you're speaking to them.
Mm. Yeah. So most people think that the way they see themselves is the way things are. Their problems, their griefs, their limitations. Um, but what's really true is that the way you were conditioned and brought up, and your environment and your parenting and your upbringing has shaped so much of how you see the world and yourself in the world, more importantly. Uh, And what I know in my heart that is true is that when I changed the way I participated in the world and changed how I viewed myself, then reality started reflecting my new identity. And to change your identity, it is the ultimate journey, the most, I think it was Joseph Campbell, this is the most important journey a man or a woman will ever undertake, is a journey within. And I can say that it took me, well, because I didn't start looking for myself until my late 30s, right? I didn't even know I had to look for myself. And then I remember sitting there and I said, I'm so comfortable being myself. Sitting here, I'm just so comfortable. And people would say, even family would say, what are you talking about? But I've never been so okay with being me as I am. And so the opposite thing, the question to ask that then is that, who the hell were you and how were you feeling the rest of your life? And that is not something that I enjoyed. And this is finally when it arrived there. So
Beautiful. If you could stand on top of a building with a bullhorn that would reach the ears of every person in the world, what would you want them to hear from you? If you had just 10, 15 seconds to just speak right to it, what would you say?
where do you come up with these questions? They're marvelous. I really love them. You just knocked me back with the questions. It's like, wow. Um, I would say to them what I believe is true. However, I haven't gotten there yet, and I'm trying. Is that you can overcome your past conditioning, go after the things that you ultimately want, and that is true for you. You're going to have a lot of challenges, and it's not going to be easy. And just like myself, you'll fall short. Then you get up there, and then you know the one thing that I want to tell everyone is that you're living in the matrix. Okay, it sounds cuckoo, but we are living a deception. We are living a life that is created by our perceptions, by our thinking. In reality, if there was no thought, there would be no reality. You wouldn't have existed. So your entire existence is based on thought. Now, it's not to say that the world doesn't exist independently of thought, although there are many schools that perpetuate that. I don't want to go down the whole deep mystical path or philosophical path. Is that if everything is subjective, then you can create the reality that you want to participate in. And so I say to my clients and I say to my friends is that live your life on your terms because it's a game. Play the game for you to win. Because there's two ways of looking at it, right? One way is it's all, sorry, it's over 15. I can stop, but it's over 15 seconds.
That's okay. Just go a little bit longer to feel like you've spoken to it.
there's basically two ways of looking at everything. There's more than two ways, but let's just say two ways. Like life has no meaning, and I'm here to suffer, and then I'll die, and I got to do my part and do this. And then there's this sort of, well, you could say dystopian and utopian, right? So then if we look at the utopian point of view and say maybe life is about joy and happiness and fulfilling dreams and pursuing things that you want without excluding others. That's the most vital and very important point to me, is that the Western concept of happiness is me and me and me. And I'm saying there's no happiness without the other. That's the essential message. There is no personal selfish quest for your happiness to the detriment of others. And so the you can definitely overcome uh, those beliefs in your mind, those conditioned beliefs, and live the life that you want to live. Because all of it is a game. So play the game for you to win, and everybody else to win, not you and then everybody else and gets nothing.
Just two more questions. Uh, what do people misunderstand about your work?
Um, yeah. If you look at the term life coach, everything can be misunderstood. So what I it's very difficult to put into a box what I do, right? On the one hand, on the other hand, there's very few things that I don't do, right? As far as the human being is concerned, as far as the human condition is concerned. Now, if someone is suicidal and wants to take their life, I don't participate in that. Not to say I can't stop them. You can't stop anything, but you can pretend like you're stopping something. But I will work. Okay, that's another topic. But I don't know how to answer that actually.
Yeah, when like let's say you have a conversation with somebody. Maybe you meet some you're talking to someone at a party or a gathering or something like that. And you tell them a little bit about your work, and they're just like, "Oh yeah, I don't need something like that," or "Oh yeah, I get what you do,"
Ah,
or
right. Yeah, yeah.
just sort of like, "Oh okay, so you basically just tell people how to
Right,
live better, right?" They're
right,
not
right, right.
really
Yeah,
understanding your work.
this is
But what
good.
do you
Yeah,
find is
yeah.
like the general misconception?
Yeah, so the misconception is that I'm here to make you happy, solve your problems, make you positive, uh, make you feel um, better about yourself, um, that I will solve your problems and I will heal your wounds. I won't.
And what will you do?
I will show them that the way that they're seeing the world is the problem, not the world. Number one. Number two is that it's time to go within and open those deep crevices that you've hidden far away from the world, as I had to, and ask those difficult questions that you judge and impose on the world about themselves, and ask those questions to yourself. That's what I will do. And then I will I will let you see that everything that you claim to have wanted in your life because it would fulfill you was a fantasy and a deflection from the real thing that you actually want. What we actually want is to be comfortable in our own skins. We want to be at ease with this moment as it is. And we want to be in a childlike state. In other words, we want to be present and engaged without all the baggage coming along. So I want to help you, as I did, ditch a lot of baggage. I didn't know I had baggage until someone with a skilled blade or key, and they call me the key maker. Many people call me the key maker. This term is just keeps on coming up over and over again. And that was interesting in the Matrix, but obviously I don't know how it was relevant. But I am the key maker, is what I've been told by a lot of people. I still don't get it entirely, but then sometimes I do. Is that I'm going to show you that key that you didn't see that's lying in there, and we're going to unlock that. And so it's like it's what Joseph Campbell says is that the cave you fear to enter holds the treasures you seek, and that to me is it. We got to go into those dark crevices where you never shone the light upon because you deflected that outwards, and go look at that dark side in you, but not to crucify and to vilify and make you feel like some kind of horrible human being, but to bring that out of the darkness and shine the light of awareness onto that, to integrate that into you so that you are an integrated human being, knowing your good side, which everybody knows. I'll never do that. I'm like this, I'm like that. But you know what? I can be a horrible human being too. I can be really selfish, right? And I can judge people and I can do this and I can do that. And then once we brought them all out, and then we say, I'm okay with that, you know? I'm okay with that. Because that's the people like, oh, you know, you're arrogant. You know, you're so arrogant. And what do most people do? I'm not arrogant. You're not speaking the truth. And now if someone's done the work and you say, you know what? I'm arrogant. And you know what? I'm okay with it. Are you?
Mm.
Game over, right? And it's not an arrogant statement. You're saying, look, I know the demons inside of me. I've done the work with myself, and I will change it. I'm not saying when if I'm a horrible human being and doing horrible things that I never want to change that. But you're just accepting that you recognize it in you, except instead of deflecting onto everybody else. And so I say the thing that you see wrong with the world is the thing that's wrong with you. I think it was Carl Jung that said that, right? What's wrong with the world is wrong with you.
Pause there for a moment. Powerful. Last question. Why can people trust you?
Um, because I'm very unappealing. I don't put on an act. I don't come across. People say, you're a life coach. You should be smiling on all your photos. And I say, I don't want to smile. Right? I just want. You can trust me because um, I would say that I'm not pretending to be something, but then I have to say that we all wear masks. The Japanese say we all wear three masks, right? And there's the mask to the world, there's the mask to the ones that to yourself, and then there's the actual version of who you are. So I would say, yeah. And the other reason is that I don't have anything to gain from your happiness. In the past, I would have, because I would inspire you to feel happy so that I could feel happy because I was miserable inside. And this type of projection into people, you find across all fields: social work, hospital, mental health, trauma relief. These people have had so much grief that they haven't been able to accept in themselves and then project it out on the world, which is no problem because it's providing a valuable service. I've done that. So when a client says, and to be a life coach and to be a true mentor and to be a true parent, I said my father was not a nice guy, but he was a parent. And I said, I love you, Dad, today when I went to the graveyard, because he was not nice to me, but he made me into a very functional member of society in the process. And today we want everybody to like us and we want everyone to be our friends, and we're not prepared to say the things that really matter to them, and not the harsh things, but the things that nobody says. The reason you can trust me is because I'm going to tell you the thing that nobody else is going to tell you. And I'm going to tell you that because I've got nothing to gain, except I've got things to lose. And that's why I've lost clients. I'm like, listen, we're 3 weeks in here. I can tell you what, you're not interested in happiness. You're doing this because your wife sent you here. So I'm going to save you and your wife a lot of money, and go find someone else to sit and cuddle you and tell you that you're not wrong and they're wrong. I can't do that for you.
Mm.
So I'm very selective. So my process is I don't just put an advert in the newspaper and say life coach for sale. Any problem you got, give me a call. I don't do that. It's
Mhm.
just not me. I'm not 21 years old looking for a job desperately.
Okay, here we go. All right. So you came into the world through Pretoria, South Africa, and you spent the first 12 years of your life there. That was the looking for the right word. That was the that was almost sort of like the leaping point from Pretoria off into the world. And I almost get the visual of like a pinball machine, you know.
It is
Start at Pretoria and
perfect.
then boom, bing, 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 just pinball machine out into life from Pretoria. And the the essence that went that the essence that was pinballed machine out into the world was a deep thinker, um, always philosophizing, fascinated by astronomy, aliens, galaxies, fascinated by the concept of supernatural abilities, and exploring all the while through all of these different locations and places, using that as the new canvas upon which to explore um, yourself, the world, curiosity about others. And simultaneously, there was a very deep empathy that was baked into that. Uh, Always felt life very deeply, feeling people's pains, the homeless, the sick, the poor, the abused, people taking advantage of. And that was very, very impactful for you. And there was I'm really, uh, it really stands out to me. The, um, you as a child on the kitchen floor with a knife cutting your own toenails, even though a toenail clipper would have worked perfectly fine, and yet you wanted to see how it worked and if you could figure it out better and not buy into, well, everybody's doing it this way, but I'm choosing to do it a completely different way just because everybody's doing it this way. Like, I want to do it my own way.
Spot
And
on.
you, cool. And you would find that you would get bored very quickly. You would achieve something, and then you would want to move on to something else. And I think that that works on different levels. One level was that once you had pushed the envelope and you had come to this new, um, oh, I did the thing that I wanted to do. Wait, there has to be more than this.
Mm.
What else can I do? And then find, oh, now I just did the thing that I wanted to do. Wait, no, there's got to be more than this. Then you do it again. It's like, no, 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 wait, there's got to be more than this. And each stage was a sense of accomplishment followed by a feeling of dissatisfaction because you were, in essence, trying to make yourself feel better and yet continuing to come to a sense of emptiness on the other side of that level of achievement. And yet, along with that was a gift of overcoming adversity. And you would use it in different businesses and things you would create. And yet, for quite a period of your life, you were mired in feeling loss and grief. And you would find that you had an ability to inspire others. Well, let me go back. You used to deflect your own pain by making yourself feel better, by having others feel better. And what you were really looking to do was prove that you were good enough, smart enough, brave enough. Um, and in helping others, you would feel that you were helping yourself. But really, when you look back on that older part of yourself, what you found is that you lacked self-esteem, you hated yourself, you resented people, you were frustrated, you were afraid of life, you were afraid of being loved or loving, for fear of losing people, always being very unsettled in your own being, in your own skin. And so helping others to feel better gave you a sense of feeling better. And yet, at some point, you started to realize that you actually just needed to own that for yourself instead of seeking it out in the world to reflect it back to you. You discovered that actually, no, I need to generate this myself and then radiate this out into the world. And that's where you began to accept yourself as the soul that you are, the complete human being. And in doing that, that's when you started to be able to accept the souls that others are and the complete human beings that they are. And then people would not just feel better in your presence, they would actually start to become themselves in your presence. Because what the problem basically is for others is conditioning. We've all been programmed to, we've all been programmed or inherited a program. And in doing so, we've lost touch with our essential nature. People have forgotten who they are. They've forgotten that they come from the earth. They are the earth. And yet all of these layers of conditioning have been put over that. And we've just gotten lost and confused and diffused into all of these distractions and lost touch with our true selves and that deep somatic limbic knowing part of ourselves. Because surely there is more life. There's more to life than this. And that was the question you asked yourself that guided you. And that is the question that other people are asking themselves, whether they realize it or not. So of all the things that you could be doing in the world, what you're seeing is that you have such a wide range of abilities. And you've done so many things. And yet there was a moment in your life where there was a coach who pointed out things to you that you couldn't see. And as you look back on your life and you follow sort of like these illuminated stepping stones of coincidences that would lead you to finding what you naturally love, including your mom saying so long ago, you were meant to speak. And your realization that you don't want to live or die with fear, grief, sadness, feeling a victim. You know, realizing that you want it to be different and you want to break the cycle. And surely there's another way to exist. And in truly owning that for yourself and then bringing other people into that experience for themselves, it feels like there's a continued level of like coming into true alignment with yourself. And in doing so, other people are starting to come into true alignment with themselves. And it feels like that's the way that you want to make a difference in the world, by the more gravity you create within yourself to be truly at home in who you are, the more other people will feel the gravity of that, come into that for themselves, and then that will begin to ripple outward. Because most people think that the way they see themselves is the way they are, in their grief, in their limitations. But what's really true is that we were conditioned. Our conditioning has shaped so much of who we are and how we see ourselves and the world around us. And what you know in your heart is that when you changed the way you participated in the world and how you viewed yourself, your reality started to reflect that new identity. And it's the most important journey a person will ever take, where you can finally come into a place where you can say, I'm so comfortable with being myself. I'm so okay with being me. And the truth is, when more people in the world start to have that experience, they will start to be more okay with other people being them. And how can that not be a world that is a good world for everybody? So, if you could really allow yourself to just be heard by people, what you would really want them to get is that we're living in the matrix. We're living in a deception, a life that's created by our perceptions, and that for so much of the world, their entire existence is based on their thoughts and their thinking, and that they really can create the reality that they want to participate in. They can live their life not only on their terms and play the game to win, but they can do it in a way that has others win as well. Where people get confused is that they think that, oh, well, you're here to make them happy or solve their problems or make them feel better about themselves or heal their wounds for them. And that's not what you do. What you do is you show them the way that they are seeing the world and how that's the problem. It's not the world. It's showing them how it's not only okay, but critical that they learn to go inside and open up the deep crevices and ask the questions that really begin to illuminate the darkness and really see what's in there. And in doing so, they're beginning to reclaim their true selves and be comfortable in their own skin and become at ease with themselves. And that's why some people refer to you as the key maker, because you make the key that allows people to access the parts of themselves that they've never had access to before. And really what it comes down to is the reason that people can trust you is because you don't put on an act. You're not pretending to be someone you're not. And you speak the truth to people, even if that means them choosing not to work with you, because that's how committed you are to truth and to not being the reflection people want you to be of them, but the reflection that people need you to be in order for them to find their true selves. Rashad Ahmed. Boom.